Folk music is full of histories, emotions and values. Music is a window to the past that helps us to understand our roots, to treasure our difference and at the same time unite us. My name is Naren Palomino, and in this video we will talk about the influence and importance of folk music. During the first decades of the 20th century, many composers searching for new textures and colors began to seek influence in music of different cultures. One of the greatest French composers, Maurice Ravel, used as a source of inspiration Spanish music. Hungarian music. And American music, more specific, jazz. Ravel loved to travel and learn about music from different cultures. However, other composers, instead of looking outside, they decide to look at his roots. A good example of this is the Hungarian composer Béla Bartók, who used rhythms and melodies from his native land and combined them with his own musical ideas. Perhaps one of the most famous examples of this kind of musical exploration is Igor Stravinsky with the Rite of Spring. Stravinsky used a lot of Russian folk melodies in his orchestration, and probably this helped him to create one of his most famous and controversial works. While all this musical rediscovery took place in Europe, a Brazilian composer felt the same intrigue towards his folk music. Heitor Villa-Lobos earned the position of one of the most important composers in South America during the 20th century. He was a prolific composer, and he wrote music for orchestra, for cello, for guitar, for singing, for piano, for choirs, and also he wrote music specifically for education. And now, if we want to answer the question why Villa-Lobos becomes such a great figure in the 20th century, we have to talk a little bit about his life. Villa-Lobos was born in AD 87. From his young age, he received a certain influence from his father. His father was a librarian, but he also was an amateur musician. So thanks to him, he learned how to play clarinet, how to play cello, and how to play classical guitar. Even though Villa-Lobos was receiving this huge influence of classical Western music, he felt really curious about popular Brazilian music.
Agora vou mudar minha conduta.
Villa-Lobos started to exploring many regions of Brazil and the Amazons to find some musical inspirations in the folk music. Other inspirations that Villa-Lobos had during this period was European music, because in 1917 he went to the Russian ballet in Rio, and also he met the French composer Darius Milhaud, who was spending some time in Rio. Milhaud brought the music of Debussy, Satie, and probably Stravinsky to Villa-Lobos, and Villa-Lobos introduced to Milhaud the Brazilian street music. We also know that Darius Milhaud wrote many pieces in Brazilian style. Also during this time, Villa-Lobos met to the great pianist Arthur Rubinstein, who became a lifelong friend and support him to Villa-Lobos. Rubinstein was playing Villa-Lobos music in New York, in Paris, in Russia during the 20th century.
Now I shall play a gay little piece called Pancinello by Brazilian composer Villa-Lobos.
When Villa-Lobos was 28 years old, he got a scholarship sponsored by the Brazilian government, and he was able to go to Paris. Villa-Lobos was having a really great time in Paris. Besides, he was learning so many things. He was also premiering his piece, and most of his pieces were really well received. We are talking about the years 1923 to 1930, and Villa-Lobos was exposed to this great cultural boom that occurred in Paris. He not only met great composers and performers like, for example, Stravinsky, Ravel was alive during this time, but he also met artists, writers, philosophers, every kind of aspect that helped him to grow as an artist. In 1930, Brazil was passing through a process of social revolution, followed by dictatorship, and finally the major crisis was with the World War II. So Villa-Lobos couldn't practically go outside of South America for 15 years. However, Villa-Lobos was appointed by the president to be the new conductor in the SEMA. The SEMA was an organization who practically was organizing educational programs and concerts. So Villa-Lobos dedicated himself to education and composition for the government. In 1945, Villa-Lobos visited for the first time the United States of America. He was invited to conduct his own works with the Boston Symphony Orchestra, with the New York Symphony Orchestra, and he was organizing concerts in New York, and he met great personalities as Toscanini, Menuhin, and even the jazz player Duke Ellington. 2 years later, he was conducting in Rome, Lisbon, and Paris. In 1948, he returned once more to New York, but this time for treatment of cancer. Although the last decade of Villa-Lobos' life was marked by a gradual detriment in health, he remained for the most part remarkably active. He made a series of tours in Europe, United States, and Japan. He returned to Paris, where he was working in numerous engagements and commissions. In December in 1958, he received an honorary doctorate from the New York University. However, when he returned to Brazil in 1959, his health had worsened considerably. A few months later, Villa-Lobos passed away. I am a music major here in UCA, and while I am working in my senior recital, I had to play a major work for the 20th century. This semester I dedicate myself to work on a piece by Heitor Villa-Lobos called Ciclo Brasileiro, Brazilian Cycle. The Ciclo Brasileiro has 4 pieces, which I played the third one named Festa no sertão. In the English translation is Jungle Festival. Festa no sertão is an energetic and rhythmic piece. It mixes elements between modern piano literature and Brazilian rhythms. The piece is full of energetic rhythm patterns, colorful harmonies, and even a melancholic section. Something that fascinates me about Villa-Lobos' rhythms is the way he used the 16 notes that technically are 16 notes in every beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. But Villa-Lobos changed the accentuation. So instead to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, he does things like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. There is one section with this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And this pattern is very similar to the clave pattern in salsa music. 1, 2, 3. And somehow you realize that sometimes the difference between Caribbean music and Brazilian music it's just about the accentuation. Going back with the previous rhythm, the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I just want to ask you, what kind of music do you think when you hear that? We can find the same accentuation in music like milonga. The same kind of accentuation has been used by Astor Piazzolla in his tangos. But also, we can find that kind of music in klezmer music. Even we can find that pattern in American jazz music. Even during the present days, many pop songs are using that rhythm.
Come on, turn the radio on, it's Friday night and I won't be long.
And if we try to figure out what's the origin of this rhythm, actually is from Africa. Most of the South American rhythms came from Africa when the slaves were trade from the Atlantic Ocean to the United States, to Cuba, to Brazil. And it's funny to think that how that rhythm 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 appears in so different kind of music, but at the same time it's just the same. So there's people that can say this is really Argentinian, or this is really American, or this is really Middle East of wherever, but in the very deep. It's the same. In conjunction with the other piano majors, I have been participating in the creation, organization, and performance of the UCA Piano Series. This series is unique because it has allowed UCA piano majors to being able to perform classical music for an audience during COVID time. And for the last concert, I choose this Brazilian music because somehow, more than a Bolivian, I feel more like a South American. Perform South American music helps me to remember where I came from. It helps me to remember my family. It helps me to remember, hey, I am not only Bolivian, I am part of all this part of South America. As a music major, usually I have to play music from all around the world. For example, I have to play German music, playing Johann Sebastian Bach music or Ludwig van Beethoven music. I have to play Polish music, Frédéric Chopin. I have to play Russian music, Sergei Rachmaninoff. French music, Claude Debussy, Maurice Ravel. And I'm learning different things from every composer. Like Jorge Drexler said, it's very important to know about our roots, to know where we come from, to understand our history. But at the same time, as important as knowing where we are from, is understanding that deep down, we're not completely from one place and a little from everywhere.